Hello, everyone. Ron here from L.T.L Tutoring Central. And this is something a little bit new. It's reading, comprehension, and discussion. So I'm going to be reading today an article. I'll read different things. It'll probably usually be some sort of article. And I'll give my point of view or dissect it if there is anything to dissect or anything that I have to say about it. And then you're welcome to join in the discussion if you're watching on YouTube in the comments below, or you can always contact me via email and we can have a discussion that way. I think it might be interesting. The first one is a Canadian Geographic article that we're going to be having a look at. So I'm going to share my screen in just a moment and see how that goes. I haven't done this for a little while. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. The channel is growing a little bit, but I know we can do better. So just tap on that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you a penny. Very easy to do and helps the channel a lot. In the description will be ways you can help the channel a little bit more if you want to through donations. And I appreciate everyone who has subscribed and also used those methods to donate to the channel. Now I'm going to share my screen and pull up the article. And we have here, this is Canadian Geographic People and Culture. I will put a link to this article in the description as well, so you can go there, check it out, support them as well, of course. Humans could have arrived in the Western Hemisphere earlier than we thought. Indigenous archaeologist Paulette Steeves shows us how an ancient world could have been more complex and more populated than we imagined. And it tells us the publishing date was September 2023, so quite early, and it gives you more information. Data research by Paulette Steeves. Words by Crawford Killian, mapping by Chris Brackley. So here we have Indigenous archaeologist Paulette Steeves says that based on her research across the last 24 years, people have been present in the Western Hemisphere for more than, I think that's supposed to say 130,000 years and possibly earlier. This includes places like Alaska pictured here. Okay, beautiful. Every science tends to be conservative, treasuring its hard-earned knowledge and suspicious of anything that throws doubt on it. Scientific revolutions, however, depend not only on evidence, but on new science applied to old questions. Paulette Steeves, Indigenous archaeologist, professor at Algoma University, Canada Research Chair in Healing and Reconciliation, and author of The Indigenous Paleolithic of the Western Hemisphere, has challenged her discipline with very old evidence. Indigenous ways of knowing gained over millennia as humans explored and flourished in this half of the world. All right, the first paragraph. Yes, science can be conservative. It can sometimes find itself challenged to change its point of view, but it does rely on evidence, and it's not based on superstition. It's not based on just imagination. It might start off with imagination, but then you have to find actual proof and support for that. So I think that science is our best way of getting at knowledge rather than just using imagination and fantasy, although that can encourage us to look for things. Scientific consensus has long held that humans have been in the Western Hemisphere for about 11,000 years, since the arrival of peoples using Clovis technology to make hunting tools, named after the city in New Mexico where stone spear points were found in 1929. Clovis points are distinctive and indicative of what has been considered the earliest prehistoric Paleoamerican culture. But based on my research across the last 24 years, Steve says people have been present in the Western Hemisphere for over 130,000 years and possibly earlier. Okay, so there's the timeline she's looking at. Her research began after she read about archaeological sites dated earlier than Clovis technology and wondered if there were more. There are many sites in the academic literature. It just takes time to find them, says Steeves. I tracked down published articles on more than 500 archaeological sites that predated Clovis technologies in just a few weeks. The 169 ancient sites dotted throughout this map of the Western Hemisphere all appear to long predate Clovis, the result of Steeves' research. The oldest sites are scattered from Alaska to Florida, Brazil to Chile, and scores more are only a little younger. It's difficult to see. You can't really see the map. You can see the map, but you can't see all the print here. But if you go to the original document, you can expand it. I tried expanding it here earlier, but it gets too big and then you can't see it all, and it's just too difficult to get in properly. But you can expand it. You can see all the dots here, and you can obviously see where they believe people traveled. Despite such numbers, archaeologists who publish articles on sites that predates Clovis know they risk overzealous critique and even academic dismissal, according to Steves. This area of archaeological research was known as an area of academic suicide, she says. Steves' key evidence is sites like Calico, California, where paleontologist L.S.B. Leakey found lithic flakes evidently chipped in the process of making stone tools, estimated to be between 50,000 and 80,000 years old. Some archaeologists have argued that the Calico site has evidence of human presence as early as 200,000 years ago. Well, I'm not an archaeologist, so it's difficult for me to assess, but I think that you do have to be cautious. So it says found lithic flakes evidently chipped in the process of making. I would think I would be very cautious with that small amount of information because you can jump to conclusions. Sometimes things look like they were done deliberately, but maybe they weren't. I'm not saying that's the case here. As I say, I don't really know enough about it, but I would say, yeah, okay, I'm going to put my critical hat on there for a minute just to say maybe that's not enough. Plenty of evidence exists in Indigenous oral histories, too. The skills needed to orally transmit history and culture across thousands of years were highly intellectual, says Steves. She therefore confidently presents the many accounts of environmental events such as floods and volcanic eruptions and extinct species such as mastodon and mammoth as evidence of humans pre-Clovis antiquity in this hemisphere. Take the Osage, I'm not sure if that's right, oral tradition of an ancient battle between two groups of great beasts near present-day Kimmswick, Missouri. After the battle, the Osage burned the dead beasts as an offering to the Great Spirit and held a ceremony at the site every year. This site has provided evidence of stone tools and fossils of mastodon and mammoth species extinct for more than 11,000 years. So that might be I think, more concrete evidence, I suppose. Although it says extinct for more than 11,000, so that would push it before 11,000, but wouldn't necessarily tell us when it was. Evidence also exists in the sheer numbers of surviving Indigenous languages. Linguist Johanna Nichols estimates that the diversity of Indigenous languages would require human arrival in the Western Hemisphere perhaps some 35,000 years ago. And in the paleontological record, which shows extensive mammalian migration down numerous migration corridors between the eastern and western hemisphere over the last 2 million years. Where mammals go, humans tend to follow. True, but not necessarily. So again, we do have to be cautious here, and I'm not trying to say that Steves is wrong or that people didn't arrive much earlier. They very well might have. But I am always just trying to be critical, just trying to say, okay, but maybe that doesn't tell us. Scattered across this map of the Western Hemisphere, the archaeological sites are reminiscent of the first deep field photo taken by the James Webb Space Telescope, a kaleidoscope of countless galaxies already forming soon after the Big Bang. When NASA revealed that image to the world in 2022, it changed our knowledge of the early universe. Like the telescope, Paulette Steves shows us an ancient world, brighter, more complex, and more populated than we imagined. Well, it shows us the potential of that, at least. I think you have to be careful with wording there. I don't think it shows us the potential of it. And that's true. We learn as we go. And, what her evidence shows, some of it may be eventually proven to be true or accepted in more standard scientific journals, etc., and some of it maybe will be disproved. But I think there's a lot of potential evidence here, so it is always good to go back. I think that's a smart idea to go back to older evidence or talking points of other researchers, etc. And yes, sometimes if you have something that you know is not going to be immediately accepted or is even going to be rejected by the scientific community, you might not even want to present it. So it can sometimes shut down certain researchers or people. So it's great that Paulette Steeves is looking at this, and others are looking at this and trying to sort it out. I'm going to scroll down. Are you passionate about Canadian geography? You can support Canadian Geographic in 3 ways. And so this will all be available in the link that I put in the description for you. Very interesting. Let me know what you think. Do you think people arrived in the Western Hemisphere much, much earlier than has generally been accepted? I'm going to stop share for just a second. Or do you think that the 11,000, 15,000, somewhere in their range is accurate? I don't know. This didn't convince me necessarily one way or the other, but very interesting article and great to know that people are still looking at older evidence and ideas and bringing them forward to see if they make sense in today's world. If we can discover new ideas or change our ideas, that is what science is supposed to do, but it's not supposed to just do it willy-nilly. It's not supposed to change every time someone comes up with an idea. I mean, you have to do the research. You have to be very cautious and careful to ensure, and then move forward. And I'm sure there is some people digging in their feet and not wanting to change. This is definitely going to happen in the scientific community. But the idea of science is that we do change when we learn and when we're convinced of new evidence, even if we've held on to something for a very long time. So I hope that if there is enough evidence out there, that obviously the scientific community will change its mind about that. That's my 2 cents worth. I'm not sure it's even worth 2 cents, but there you go. It's Ron from L.T.L. Tutoring Central. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel. You can donate if you like. It's in the description. Check out the Canadian Geographic article in there as well. In the meantime, keep learning and keep having fun. And I'm just looking for the stop button here. And bye-bye for now.